Find me, I'm falling asleep. This is the companion documentary I've made to this film. I'm John Stark from BackToMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is Find Me Falling, the newest Netflix movie of the week, which was given to International Digital Center for them to describe. It's written by Betty Capone and narrated by Kimberly Chatterley. And yeah, so it has fine audio description. What is this movie about? What is this Harry Connick Jr. movie about? Why would Harry Connick Jr. choose this film? I think he just really wanted a trip to Cyprus, if I'm being really honest, because this is terrible. I'm just gonna go ahead. We're just gonna rip that bandage off. Uh, I I could just fast forward to the end of this and just be like, and give you the grade. Um, I did not like this. I thought it was boring. I thought it was slow. Harry Connick Jr. doesn't even really seem like he wants to be here. I'm like, dude, you chose this. Nobody's forcing you to do this film. Like, why? He's just kind of like lumbers through the film. I guess it's his way of playing like depressed, aging rock star. But man, this movie's a drag. Um, and is so depressing. For people who are like, I need trigger warnings in front of my movies, huge trigger warning here. This movie is suicide is a huge part of this film. Huge part of this film. Not necessarily featured all the time, but is a huge part of this film. And I will explain that because that seems like a very catch. You're like, what? How is it like a big part, but it's like not featured a lot? Like, what does that mean to you? Well, they figured out how to fucking do that. So Harry Connick Jr. plays a rocker. I've forgotten his name. He's got some dumbass rock name that's like not really existing. Where they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I'm like Johnny Edge, man. Don't you remember me from back in the day? I had that hit song. Oh yeah, wow! I can't believe you're here, of all places. Movie opens and he is living in his house, which he apparently just bought in Cyprus. So we don't really have any like there's no lead up to this. There's no like moment of crisis where he's like, God, I gotta give up my career. This is such like a terrible movie. This movie had like no budget. They're like, we can only shoot on Cyprus. We can't have you shoot anywhere else. We must shoot only on Cyprus. Um, so he just kind of starts off and he's just like moping around. I think he cuts his hand and blah blah blah. Later on, he goes outside and there's like a woman that's like committed suicide outside his house, and he's like, "What the fuck is this?" And the cops are there, and they're like, "Did you see her jump?" And he's like, "What? What's happening?" And they're like, "Oh, and he's like, "I just bought this house." And I'm like, "Oh, you bought that house?" The realtor showed it to you. Did she tell you about it? So apparently in Cyprus, there's this particular cliff where people go to kill themselves and jump off. And it happens on the reg. On the reg. So Harry Connick Jr.'s house is the house that basically is on this property where the cliff is. He was like, oh, this has got such a great view, you know, of suicide. That's what this has a great view of. Um, I don't know, he wants to build like, he's like, why don't you guys build a fence or a wall? And they're like, I don't know, you're welcome to, So he tries to like build a fence. He wants to build a fence to like keep people from committing suicide off the side of his property. And the Cyprus people are just like, yeah, this is just what happens. It's just like the cop is just like, I don't know, this sucks, but yeah, people come here from all over to commit suicide right here at your house. I told you it's a big part of the film. I'm not gonna say that like every 5 minutes that this is not like a comedy. So it's not like every 5 minutes that somebody's like jumping off the back of it. Or it's like, oh shit, I gotta build this house. I gotta build this wall quicker. So as he, moves about Cyprus more. He does things like runs into a uh, a grocer, and he's like, "Is there any way I can have my groceries delivered?" And they're like, "Oh, are you are you injured? Are you like unable to leave the house?" Like, like they don't understand. I guess he's so used to being a rock star that this is the way of the writers of the film showing us that he's a rock star, is that he has normally people do this thing for him, and he openly just finally says, he's like, "Listen, I haven't shopped for my own groceries in years. I don't even know where to begin." It's like, it's food, man. You walk in and you go, "I want that." Like, do you really get famous and then you like lose the ability to look at food and go, that looks tasty? I don't understand. So, so he has this poor grocer agrees to, like, "Yeah, we'll send you some groceries, whatever." He's like, "Thank you. Oh my God. I thought I was gonna actually have to go to a grocery store." Some other people recognize him, and later on, he's at his house, and he's trying to like. Of course, he's a rock star, so like if he can't grocery shop, how can he build a fence? But he's trying to like build a fence, and he collapses outside and falls asleep because he's, I don't know, drunk or something. And meanwhile, this girl comes up, Milena, I think is her name, and we've seen her in this film. Otherwise, she works at a restaurant where she's also the talent. So she's a singer. She's an aspiring singer. Um, so at this point in the film, we haven't been introduced to anything else. So it looks like this is going to be the movie. These two are going to get down and dirty. But after she brings him the groceries and gets inside and they talk about it, and she even kind of like flirts with him and just kind of like openly just starts smoking, just like in his house. There's a lot of cigarette smoking and just in here in general. Just people smoke all the time in here. Um, but she just, he's like, are you, you know, the girl's like, the best way to learn Greek is to take on a lover. And then he's like, "Are you coming on?" And she's like, "Ew, no, gross. You're like old. I meant like somebody like your age." I'm like, well, that was really obviously like a come on. Like nobody would have said that to somebody else while like seductively smoking a cigarette. It's just like, this movie is fucking terrible. Anyway, so yeah, she like leaves. She's just like, I don't know, find somebody your age and have sex with them, basically, is her suggestion. Um, she'll be around though. She'll be in this film a lot more because she's interested in music and he's a musician. So he'll have the opportunity to mentor her, and she'll just keep coming in and asking him about stuff like, "Ooh, what's up with that guitar? Ooh, tell me stories about you being a rock star." Um, and I love the fact that she has zero accent, no accent whatsoever. And their way of describing it is just to kind of make you feel like you're racist. So why don't you have an accent? No people here have accents, you know? And it's like, uh, what? That just means that you've been somewhere else before, yet you would have an accent. Like here in America, if you just live in Appalachia too long, you have an accent. Like we have regional accents. Not only do I sound like an American to the rest of the world, but like in America, you can tell where people live. Like we have like really specific regional accents just in our own country. It's not like I didn't just develop like another country's accent for no apparent reason whatsoever without ever being there. Like how weird would that be if like without ever like living in Italy, I spoke, you know, English American like an Italian. And they're like, "Where did you get that accent?" "Oh, not every American has, has an accent. Has an American accent. What are you talking about? It's my natural accent that I was born with." It's a terrible accent. I don't know what country that is. But yeah, so to make up for the fact that casting directors are terrible in this film, they had to insert a line about why she doesn't have an accent. And it's just the dumbest explanation. I'm sorry. I hated it. Um, Later on, you find out that the real reason he's here is he's kind of chased this one girl that he really loves, Sia, across, and it's unfortunately not the real artist, Sia, which would make this film so much more interesting if this was like the acting debut of Sia playing herself. No, that's just the name of the character. Um, and they have history together, and you'll find out more about the history. If you're really still interested in this film, I don't want to spoil things because this film does have some twists. It thinks it's clever. I think it's boring. I think this film is boring. I think no one in this film has any chemistry together. I think Harry Connick Jr. is sleepwalking through this film. I think it's dull. I think, uh, you know, and I keep hearing in the back of my head, I keep hearing these recent comments by actors like Viggo Mortensen and Emma Roberts who are like, film criticism has really taken a dive. It's just, and it's like, not every film is good, and that's been true the whole time. The whole time, we have had films that are not good. This film feels like Harry Connick Jr. had the opportunity to take a vacation to Cyprus and get paid to do it, and he took it. Like, somebody needed to be in this movie, and they were floating it around, and Harry Connick Jr. was like, wait, so I could earn like $100,000 and take a free trip to Cyprus? Because this is shot on location. There's something at the beginning where it says it's like shot on location in Cyprus. So, yeah, that's what this feels like. This feels like Aloha, but like low budget Aloha, where they can only pay like one actor that you've ever heard of. They end up writing a song called Find Me I'm Falling, or Find Me Falling. Find Me Falling. Sorry, the name of the film is Find Me Falling, which is how you get the name of the title, is it ends up being a song later on in the film, in case you're wondering, like, what's up with this title? Um, so yeah, because they introduced the concept of the suicide, there's basically this, you will have sort of this feeling of, is it going to happen again? When is it going to happen again? It's like they've opened up the door. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when I'm saying like the film, if you trigger warning, the film is about suicide, you're going to spend the whole movie sitting there going like, when's it going to happen again? When's somebody else going to, is this person going to jump? Like, every 5 seconds, you're just worried that like if any character feels at all depressed, I don't want to spoil things because they're like some of the main characters that feel like they might or are depressed or whatever. So I can't actually answer the question for you. But what I can tell you is I don't recommend the film. Audio description wise, Betty Capone, she does pretty good work here. I thought for the most part it was fine. I thought it was kind of funny how we started off the film, because I was ready to jump on the train here about racial, ethnicities and stuff in audio description, because Harry Connick Jr.'s character is just described as a brown-haired man. I was like, well, that's really just that's, I mean, we don't even get like an age range or like 60-ish brown. I mean, like, they're basically like, who Harry Connick Jr. is. That's the only reason you clicked on this film, just be honest. So, like, brown haired is going to be the extent of his initial description. And I was like, all right, well, okay. So, but later on, it does describe a woman as being light-skinned, or having lighter skin or whatever. I can't remember if it was lighter or light-skinned, but it did actually sort of just start describing skin tones. So I was like, well, why wouldn't we do that with the lead? Like, why are we doing it with other characters? I guess it's just, again, Harry Connick Jr. has been around long enough that I guess the assumption is that you know what he looks like. And if you don't, then that's on you, which is sort of fair, I guess, in some ways. Because this is a star vehicle. He's the only one in this cast that anybody's going to watch this film for. It's not like Harry Connick Jr. and Jennifer Lopez. But, I mean, if you have no point of view on Harry Connick Jr., if you're somebody who just doesn't really watch a lot of things, and for some reason you have Netflix for 5 minutes and you see this thing, and you're like, I like things that take place in Cyprus. Then you wouldn't necessarily have any idea what he looks like. So I guess we're running the gamble that people know generally what Harry Connick Jr. looks like, about what his age range is, how long he's been around, that kind of stuff. You've seen Hope Floats, I'm sure, right? This is sort of supposed to be like a romantic comedy. So a prerequisite to this is you attended rom dram class, and you've seen Hope Floats, which is required in this genre. Um, so yeah, I just the rest of it's fine. This film is just like a garbage throwaway film that I never need to see again. Nobody really ever needs to see this film again. Um, I dislike this movie. It was boring me. I was fighting the urge to stay awake. Well, the urge, the urge to fall asleep. I was fighting to stay awake, the urge to fall asleep. I can't even put my words together after this film. Maybe I'm falling. Anyway, that's it. Let's wrap this up. Let's get rid of this film. I'm gonna give Find Me. I keep wanting to put I'm in. Find Me Falling. I'm gonna give it a D. Uh, I I do not recommend this film. D for do not recommend. Find Me Falling. Um, it's just what an oddly depressing romantic comedy with, I don't know. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.